We all know that privacy is eroding in our lives. We all know we're being tracked. And we also don't necessarily care. It's natural to be concerned to one degree or another about privacy, and yet we don't really care, or we take certain steps to deal with it, but not maybe all that we could. And how much should we value it? How do I answer that question? How much do I value my
Yeah.
privacy, and what should I do about protecting it? Pretend it's not phones, but it's people. Do you want them listening in that fashion? No, I don't. Sometimes I'm okay with it. Sometimes I'm okay with having a conversation in public, but plenty of the time I'm not. Because again, it's not the public's business. It kind of is as simple as that. What are we drinking tonight, Ethan?
Four Roses, as per usual at this point.
As per usual.
I think if you have to have a budget for whiskey, if you're on a budget, I don't really see any reason to buy anything else other than this. At the Sam's Club, it's like $17 for a bottle of this.
Mm-hmm.
And it's actually the cheapest stuff there. So
Four Roses should sponsor us. You should reach out to them.
that would be nice. Yeah, I will say nothing but good stuff about your whiskey.
Mm-hmm. We've given them a lot of free advertising at this point, so first brand deal.
Oh, that would be nice.
Oh, yeah.
Four Roses, official bourbon of Fire in the Hearth.
I like that. I like that. For my own, I have for once decided to go with wine. I have bought a Bordeaux from the local liquor store that I really like. The liquor store I really like. The Bordeaux is, well, it's good. I'm no wine aficionado, but it's good for what it is. And I also further can't enjoy it because my reason for getting wine is I'm not feeling the best. So
you're following St. Paul's instructions.
exactly. He said take a little wine for your stomach. My problem is not with my stomach, but who cares? Like I'm gonna enjoy some wine. So
I might ruin your day now. The best thing for your throat is gin. One of the best things for your throat is gin. Like a gin and tonic is unbelievably good for your throat.
that would be good. All right then. On the positive side, that means that I can drink more of the cast finished gin from Piggy Bend, which I love. On the downside, I've been all out of it for a while. So
That's more reason for you to come and visit so you can stock up
yeah.
until they start selling it in Minnesota. Maybe next
As
time
I
I'll
said-
go that. Maybe next time I go to the distillery, I'll say, "Hey, can you maybe start working a deal where we can push a little farther north? Because I know you sell it in some places in Iowa. Can you sell it in Minnesota, like in the Twin Cities? I got a buddy up there that would like be. I got a couple of buddies up there that would definitely bring you some business.
Do it. Do it. That'd be awesome. Yeah, you got a couple.
But then, or I could just withhold that and force you to come and visit every now and again.
You could. I will be back, and I will be getting some more, as you know. So, and I'm reminded of me giving one of our mutual friends some of this, and him being like, "I want a bottle for myself, maybe 3 or 4. I also want a bottle for my mom, and just get a bunch." I'm like, all right,
He needs to come and visit too.
yeah, him and one of our other mutual friends, definitely. So, actually, 2 of our mutual friends. You know what? Let's just make it a guys' weekend.
Yeah.
So that'd be
Those that are married bring their wives so my wife can have some company.
getting his wife down here would be tough. Would be tough.
You should show her a picture of my children.
Clever. And you know how much I love Celeste, so
Show her a picture of my children and say, you can hang out with and play with all of these children, all 3 of them. You can hold the baby.
it might be able to be arranged. We'll see. We will see. Well, we wanted to chat about privacy this particular evening. We all know that privacy is eroding in our lives. We all know we're being tracked. We all know that cookies and browsing data are a thing. spoken like a true IT professional here, cookies and browsing data, and not the chocolate chip kind. We get a ton of ads for a ton of things on basically
Every
every
IT
website
guy
we
should
visit.
just have like a cookie jar on his desk.
Which really should. Yeah, we all know we're being tracked, and we also don't necessarily care. Like, we do care. There's some stories that Ethan and I will share, of, hey, that was weird how you were being tracked here. Like, wait, how did that work?
Yeah.
And I think everybody listening, most people have a story like that if you've been paying attention. So it's natural to be concerned to one degree or another about privacy, and yet we don't really care, or we take certain steps to deal with it, but not all, not maybe all that we could. And how much should we value it? So I'm trying to outline whatever the prudential principles would be, for maybe this is a good way of protecting my privacy in the modern world, and maybe this doesn't matter as much. And I'd say that's the goal of this particular episode. Help you think more critically and just better about how do I answer that question? Like, how much do I value my
Yeah.
privacy, and what should I do about protecting it?
Well, that's probably a person-to-person basis thing, because personally, I don't really have a whole lot to hide. Actually, I don't have anything to hide. And, barring personal issues, family business, that sort of thing, I don't see a whole lot of reason for me to be extremely protective of my privacy. I don't really have anything to hide. My closet happens to be skeleton free. I've got 3 kids under 4. I don't have the time to put skeletons in the closet. But no, I don't have much to hide. Nobody should be just okay with random people snooping around through your information. Or snooping around through, knowing intimate details about yourself. Like nobody that I don't know should be able to know those things. But that is also not necessarily the worst thing if they do. Like, it's not something to be keeping you up at night, I don't think.
No, I would agree. I don't think it's something to be keeping you up at night. This is not a life or death decision that you're making. And if it is, odds are you've actually done something very wrong in your life
Yes.
to make that a life or death decision. And this podcast is not for you.
Yeah, and you should probably just go turn yourself into the authorities if you've broken the law, or run.
Yeah.
Otherwise. So, yeah, I care, because everybody should care about their privacy. That is something, particularly the privacy of one's own soul. Like, that's the type of privacy that we ought to care about the most, is the privacy of our own mind, our own heart, our own intentions, and the state of our own soul. And the privacy of the absolute most intimate details of your life. Like, we have HIPAA laws for a reason. It's not really anybody else's business what sickness I might be suffering from. It's not anybody else's business the last time I broke a leg. Not really anybody's business. I might answer if I'm asked. But, a physician can go to federal prison for violating that.
They can.
So, it's also not really anybody's business what shots I've had. Because the fact that if somebody is asking me whether or not I've had shots, that tells me more about you than it would tell you about me.
Yeah, I would agree.
It's not your business what shots my children have had. Like, most schools have a list of shots that they require. Like, your children are dogs and they don't want to pass rabies through the obedience school. I don't know what sort of loophole there is in the HIPAA laws to allow that, but that doesn't seem quite right to me.
Fair point.
So I know that what you're coming from is is internet privacy, tech privacy type stuff. But if we're going to talk privacy in general, then your personal privacy, that is involved.
I would agree. And before I launch further into it, I want to bug you about one of the things you said. So when you say privacy of mind, explain that a bit further.
It is not my obligation to tell you what I'm thinking at any given point in time. It's not, and nobody has the right to demand to know what I'm thinking. You can ask, hey, what's going through your head right now? And if I say, trust me, you don't want to know, then just put up your hands and go, yep, all right, I'm good. There's not necessarily anything wrong with being open about what you're thinking. You don't want to be too loose with your tongue. That's a bad thing, and that can lead to serious problems down the line. But yeah, if somebody wants to pick your brain about something, like, what do you think about this? You can say no. Like, I'd rather not dip my toes into those waters. I don't know that you'll like my answer. Particularly if it could potentially be threatening to a friendship. If voicing your opinion about something, particularly if it's something, well, not for grave things, because if somebody holds a wrong opinion about a grave matter, then they ought to be corrected. But if it's something that could threaten your friendship with a person, there are very few reasons why it would be worth losing a friend. So, if you just say, look, I'd rather not get into this kind of thing with you because I don't think you'll like my answer, then the best thing is just to kind of say, all right, cool. Your thoughts are your own. Your mind is your own. So, yeah, that's kind of what I mean by privacy of mind.
Yeah, no, I like that.
And just like no one actually has the right, even if the thoughts are evil and perverse and twisted, nobody else has the right to actually know what those thoughts are. Because if it became a crime to think evil and perverse and twisted things, everybody would have been executed by now.
Yeah.
There's not a single person alive over the age of about 8 anymore. If I'm talking evil and perverse and twisted things, it's probably over the age of about 13. But at least no adult alive would still be alive. They'd all have been executed by now for having those evil and perverse and twisted thoughts. So having a thought is one thing, acting on the thought is another. So it's not anybody's business what we're thinking. It does become their business when we do stuff.
No, I would agree.
What we do in public is other people's business. What we do behind closed doors, it's behind closed doors. The door is there for a reason, and it is closed for a reason.
Yeah,
it's to keep you out. You physically and mentally. I don't walk past my neighbors' houses going, "Oh, I wonder what they're doing." No.
Well said, I think. So, and granted, maybe it's because of my tech background, but I think I will, like, a lot of what I'll say on this evening comes from is said with regards to the tech privacy discussion. Although those larger principles apply to other things in real life. Like, we have HIPAA for a reason. If something is not somebody else's business, then it's not their business. And that's the end of it. And I should not ever be put in some situation where somebody is snooping on that, or I'm being forced to try and divulge that.
It also just prevents a whole lot of awkwardness because we don't want the nurse coming out into the waiting room of a doctor's office and say, "All right, John Q. Public, the doctor will see you now for your testicular deformity." It's like, that would be an awkward walk. Even if you're right next to the door, that's going to be the longest walk you ever take because now everybody's staring at you going, "Testicular deformity, what?"
Yeah, you wouldn't want that. So,
No.
which ties into one of my points about why I think we should care about this. So take the tech example. You could argue that, okay, your phones aren't listening to you all the time. Your devices aren't.
They certainly are.
But they are. They just are. As we all have stories to illustrate. There's a reason that ads are so customizable that go beyond just what has this person actually looked at on this device. It does extend to what you've talked about. Obviously, that might vary by platform, by site, by app, by whatever. But the point is that things are listening to you. So, do you want that? There's some benefits to it, which I'll come to later on, actually. But and as we all know, there are benefits to it, right? But if this was pretend it's not phones, but it's people, do you want them listening in that fashion? No, I don't. Sometimes I'm okay with it. Sometimes I'm okay with having a conversation in public. But plenty of the time I'm not. Because again, it's not the public's business. Maybe I want to have a good in-depth discussion with a friend. Or maybe there's workplace confidentiality I have to maintain. Maybe there's a big debate I'm having with somebody. Maybe someone's confiding secrets in me, with me because they trust that I will keep those secrets.
Or maybe you just happen to let loose of your tongue and
Yep.
say something that you don't necessarily mean.
Exactly. Maybe certain intimate moments with my wife are being had. I don't need the device in any capacity listening to these things unless I decide that it's fine, And like we alluded to earlier, like the goal of like this is person to person, this is prudential to a point, but my point is we should think about this more. All those things I just mentioned, I wouldn't want somebody listening to those things. It kind of is as simple as that. One of the dioceses I used to live in, out in North Dakota, for example, I know that it has guidance for its priests saying, don't bring your phones into the confessional.
They definitely don't.
You know?
There's an argument to be made that if it's, the phone's listening to everything you say is something that everybody kind of knows, but hasn't been just thrown out there for the public to actually read and see. Everybody knows it, but it's not publicly known, if you know what I mean.
Like how much? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly how much phones are listening and when exactly they're listening.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's some evidence that phones can even listen to you when they're turned off, which is kind of creepy, but yeah, if that was to come out and it was just broadly known and admitted that, oh yeah, your phones are just listening to you all the time for everything and anything and everything you say,
Mm-hmm.
then at that point I would think it would just become standard operating procedure for a priest to have his phone nowhere near the confessional, and then even have instructions for penitents
Mm-hmm.
not to bring phones into the confessional. And now that I'm talking about that, I'm going to start leaving my phone in the pew next time I go to confession.
Yep.
Not necessarily for my sake, but for the priest. Because he is the one that cannot violate that seal. I can. I can say what I've mentioned in confession.
Mm-hmm.
The penitent can say all he wants. He can basically just make his confession to a bartender if he wants. You can go to confession and then go to the bar and tell the bartender everything that you confessed. That's fine. The priest can say nothing.
Yeah.
And
granted,
that,
I
I
don't
think, is one of the ways in which Mother Church has, exercised her wisdom throughout the ages, is because that is one of the oldest understood aspects of the priesthood, is that if you hear something in confession, somebody confesses something to you, you don't say it to anybody else, because it's not anybody else's business. And if the sin has been absolved, it's not anybody else's business, because that sin is no more. It is gone. The stain on your soul has been completely removed.
Yep. And to any of our Protestant brothers and sisters that happen to be listening to this, like, yeah, what's the penalty for this? You don't want to know. I want to say it's worse than murder. Like, it's a graver sin than murder.
Yeah, that's the eternal punishment for it.
Yeah.
I believe priests that break the seal of confession are in, like, the second lowest circle of hell. in the Inferno. I believe Dante actually does specifically mention that. At some point. I may be wrong, but I think he does.
Well, it's fitting because the lowest circle is treachery, right?
So it's the devil himself.
Yeah, the devil and Judas, right?
The devil and Judas. So, and maybe that is also occupied by priests that have violated the seal of confession. The eternal punishment is very bad.
Yeah.
And I've heard some say that only the Pope himself can actually absolve you of that. That the sin itself is so grave. That might not be true.
It's almost as if the answer exists in some obscure book known as the Code of Canon Law, which I know you have.
I do have a copy of the code. I don't know if it's... I don't know what number that would be, and I don't want to take the time to look now.
No. But the basic point is, yeah, it matters. That's an extreme example. Like, if your phone's listening in on you and your wife during an intimate moment, that does not rise to that in any sense. And it's also not to say, I think that, okay, just because your phone's listening, that means a person is listening. I think that's an important distinction. But ultimately, I don't know. I really can't say one way or the other that no person ever would somehow listen to something. Like, I don't think so, but there's still some sort of open question there. So
yeah, I mean, there's to look at it logically. Like, everybody jokes about your FBI agent looking at your search history and being really confused.
Yeah.
Everybody jokes about that. So if everybody has an FBI agent or a CIA agent or whatever, that's actually not possible.
Yeah.
Because then at least 50% of the country would have to be CIA agents.
Mm-hmm.
And for them to be listening, it's not possible for an actual person to be listening to you specifically 100% of the time.
No.
That's not physically possible. For it to be possible, people would have to do that in shifts. So throughout the entire day, that would take at least 3 people. Which means that only a quarter of the world is being listened to, and the other 3/4 are doing all of the listening of the population of the Earth. Like,
yeah, so it's not
mathematically, that does not add up.
Yeah, it's not that bad.
So it's not necessarily that. But it's not... So they can't do that, so they program algorithms to do that for them.
Agreed. And even if it's an algorithm, there still are these... Not these prohibitions in all cases necessarily. Some there are, but there are these questions that we should be asking. So I'd also propose this. It's not just about who's listening to you in any given moment or such, but it's also about how connected or disconnected you are or ought to be from, we'll say, the public. Again, returning to that privacy, to a degree, returning to that privacy of mind you talked about. We've talked about the importance of silence. We all know the importance of, okay, I need to not be doom scrolling on my phone all the time or constantly looking at social media. Like, I do need to just sit and be in a room or on my porch, read a book, and just intentionally not be connected to other people. Or if I am connected to other people, have it just be my family. Have it just be me and a group of friends that I'm hanging out with. Like, I don't need the specter of this device. Mm-hmm. And whoever or whatever else happens to be listening, just constantly there. Whether I'm consciously or just subconsciously aware of it,
Yeah.
And I think we're good at developing that sense that there always is this presence, the presence of this thing there. To the point that I know that my leg where that phone sits at times will just randomly buzz when the phone is not in my pocket. Or that it is more conscious that the effort I have to make to drive somewhere without my phone on me is more conscious.
Mm-hmm.
Not just because I'm attached to the thing, but, well, maybe I am. Anyway, I think there's a point to just saying, okay, no one is listening to me right now, and I can actually be quiet. At least with regards to this.
Well, even when people are listening, just being quiet. That's the best way to counter somebody listening, is just being quiet.
Mm-hmm.
If somebody's listening, you don't want to listen, be quiet. You have a conversation that you don't want heard, don't have that conversation now. It's pretty simple.
Go elsewhere. Go elsewhere and don't bring them with.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. And we're robbing ourselves of something by not giving ourselves those opportunities, that time. You know? If I had to think about the most valuable times in my life, the most valuable like personal experiences I would have in my life, and then ask myself, would those have been elevated or the reverse by the presence of my phone around me? They're probably going to be elevated by me not having the phone on me.
Yeah.
You know, or at least a number of them will.
Yeah.
You know, I'm sure there's that special text message we've all gotten. Cool. You kind of need your phone for that. But the deepest conversations you'll have with people don't require that.
And also, a text message is not, you shouldn't feel the need to respond to a text immediately.
And yet we do.
Yeah, why is that? Maybe because we get it immediately. Like, the only thing that you are kind of socially obligated to respond to is when someone speaks to you directly. Even then, you're not necessarily obligated to respond. You can say, like, I don't have the time to talk right now. Can we talk later? So that's probably, that's not so much privacy, but that's a conversation maybe for another time. Mm-hmm. But it is worth noting that
to a degree it's not privacy, but to a degree it is, I think. Because it's not just the dopamine hit, it's also the sense of, I have an obligation to this person. And you don't. Like if it was a letter, would you necessarily treat it the same way? No. You might if it's a romantic letter. Or really
if
important.
I got an actual letter in the mail, even like these days, if I got an actual letter in the mail from somebody, I would treat that with a great deal of respect, and I would probably respond with due speed and haste.
True.
Because if it's an actual letter that I got in the mail, I would be ecstatic because I got an actual letter. I got something in the actual mail that isn't junk or a bill. Like, look at that. Somebody used paper for something good for once. Somebody used paper for something positive. How about that?
How about that?
I should write more letters. Everybody should just write more letters.
No, they should. It's the type of thing that takes time for good reasons.
Yeah,
and we should do more of those things.
Does anybody know anybody's address anymore? I don't know yours. I know you know mine because you visited, but I don't know yours. Mm-hmm. Hardly anybody knows anybody's phone number anymore. You enter it in one time and your phone remembers it and you say, hey, call Jim. And then the phone does it for you. You used to have that number in your head or have to have it written by the phone, which was, on a table and attached to the wall by a cord. Mm-hmm. And then you had to spin the dial, which I think we all need to bring back because that's better than pushing a button. I think that's way better than did beep, 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 beep. I can't stand dial noises.
And again, you could think, okay, that's not a privacy discussion. It kind of is. Because it makes sense that, we're all so available to each other that it would be good for us to be less available to each other, which means that I have to put in more work to get a hold of you, which makes the whole conversation and interaction more worthwhile.
Yeah, and then you might wind up you might find yourself having fewer conversations.
Mm-hmm.
Because if somebody has to actually put in some effort to get a hold of you, then that might be a case of, well, do I actually want to talk to him right now?
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't usually answer text messages. He prefers that people just call him on the phone, which not only doing that, but also participating in it requires more effort than just texting.
Yeah.
More effort and more thought, and it's more risky.
Yeah, it's more risky. It takes more effort.
You have to control your speech and your words. Like when text messaging first started happening, people were kind of more able to control themselves because email had been a thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and you could write an email and save it for a while, then go back and look at it and delete all the curse words and then send it.
And you were more likely to send a text message that at least looked roughly like an email.
Yeah. In the earliest days of text messaging. Now, granted, in the earliest days of text messaging, there were also no keyboards, so text speak became a thing because it was just faster.
Oh.
You know, when you got to push a button 3 times, or in some cases 4, to be able to get to the letter you want, you have a motivation to...
You really do. That's a good point.
Although even my first phone actually was like that, where I had to push a button 3 times or 4 to get to a letter, and I still texted in full sentences with proper punctuation. Then I graduated up to one that slid out that had an actual keyboard on it, and I was so excited that I didn't have, like, oh, now I can only press a button 1 time.
That felt great, didn't it?
It did feel great.
I remember texting on one of those old flip phones. It sucked.
Oh, it wasn't even a flip phone, it was a brick.
Well, I mean the thing that preceding your slide out, I have a keyboard now.
Yeah.
Like,
I actually
you know?
want to go back to one of those so that if people want to get a hold of me, they can just call me on the phone.
I mean, you'd be happier for it.
And I'll build a thing to mount it to the wall and get like an actual handset to connect to it so I can pick that up and talk like the old days. It's one of the things that I aspire to.
You know what? Dumb phones are getting more technologically advanced. You know? That could be the next advancement.
There's really hardly anything that I actually need from a phone. Like, what do you actually need this device to do?
Mm-hmm.
What is it for? What is its primary job? It's for communication. And the actual essence of the thing, a phone, a telephone, is for communication. A cellular phone is for communication. But now it's like, you know, how much time do people actually spend actively communicating with people on the phone? The word phone coming from the word that means to hear. To listen. How much time do people actually spend listening to another human being on one of these things?
The irony is that the definition hasn't changed, it's just broadened. Because now you're listening to a lot more things. If this was just for communication, it doesn't need to have more technology than Apollo 11 did within it.
Yeah.
But it does.
I would also say that we probably need to change the name of these things. Technologically speaking, they need to have another name. Because this is not just a phone. It is not for listening. This is a miniature computer. It is a television.
Mm-hmm.
It is a radio. It's a calculator. It's a calendar. It basically is an all-around device to do pretty much everything. Communications-wise, internet-wise, this can do almost everything.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you have this and an internet connection, and you know what you're doing, you really can do basically anything.
So here's a counter argument, which is also part 2 of what I was going to say before. It's not a good counter argument, by the way, completely, but it gets my point across. The reason you can justify still calling this a phone, though, is because you're not just listening to other people, you're listening to the world. And to all of its facets. And hand, the world is listening to you.
Yes, I understand that.
So
Because the phone is supposed to go both ways.
yeah, and I don't make that point to defend the label of the phone so much as I make a broader point about what we're talking about in privacy,
Yeah.
which is the more important thing.
Because it's also... You should care about your privacy, and you should care that people are listening. But we also have just way too many people who way overshare.
We really do.
Like, that's the entire purpose of social media, is for people to overshare.
Mm-hmm.
Social media actually becomes more successful the less private people allow themselves to be.
Yeah. That really fancy meal that you had, that you could Instagram, I would argue that it's actually more meaningful if you didn't Instagram it. You know, when you come back from a place and somebody's like, well, did you get pictures? It's like, no, I didn't need pictures. It's in my head. It was meaningful. I did not need to stop and take a picture of it. Sometimes I do.
Well, there is...
Sometimes I might, and I want the
Taking
ability
a picture
to...
is different. Because people have been... Since photography was invented, people have been taking pictures of things. Since, the first time somebody could go out to a store and buy a camera, which at that time you also had to buy film.
Mm-hmm.
So you not only had to buy the thing, you also had to buy the thing that fed what you just bought. So it was a continued investment, which kept all those companies going. Ever since then, we have been taking pictures of memorable moments.
No, and by the way, I agree with that.
Yeah.
Like, do that.
So
but don't do it always for the purpose of like, well, I have to share this with 50 people or 500 people or 5,000 people or however many people I'm connected to on the gram and the Facebook and whatever else.
When my wife and I were on our honeymoon and went for a hike one day, there were some things worth taking pictures of. Nothing got posted, and we had talked about this beforehand. Nothing got posted until we got back. Because, and the only people we actually were connected to on social media were people that we knew in person and were relatively intimate with, personally speaking.
Mm-hmm.
So, it was all people who would actively want to know how our honeymoon went.
Sure.
Or what all we did. Well, now I don't have to sit down and have a conversation with every single person. Now I can just, direct you to the Facebook post. And the only person I need to sit down and have a conversation with is the 2 or 3 people that don't have Facebook.
Yep.
And are even better for it. But, that is one of the best uses of social media.
Agreed.
Is when you limit your friends on social media to just people that you know in person, and don't just blindly accept friend requests, then there's well, for one thing, it'll probably wind up being less than 200 people. And then if you, at another point, go through once a year, just go through your social media and go, do I actually know this person? Actually remember who this person is.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't remember the name or really the face, if it was a single encounter and then Facebook friended, cut them out. Your life is none of their business. Their life is none of yours.
Yeah, and if you offended them by that, well, then both of you should rethink, or at least they should rethink, what the purpose of social media is.
Yeah, there's a deeper problem there than just the fact that you did it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You don't owe them, to echo an earlier point, you don't really owe them that.
Yeah.
They must remain your friend.
Yeah, you don't... You also don't owe anybody what you had for breakfast.
No. And if you want to share...
If you're like an aspiring chef or something, and you happen to make something that's really good and it looks really good, and you're like, I know some people who would like to see it. For one thing, you can just send pictures directly to people, to certain people. You don't have to let everybody in the entire world see it. So if you're like, oh, I know 2 or 3 people that would like this, that's what group chats are for. You can form a group chat to send a single message. There's no shame in that.
You know, that brings up a good angle on it. Because if you were the chef and you were posting it to Facebook or Instagram or LinkedIn, whatever, you could make the case that that's networking, that's marketing, that's advertising, and that sounds good. But when you're the average person, the networking, advertising, and marketing excuse makes absolutely no sense.
Yeah, if it's an actual business thing, but if you're just like, hey, I'm practicing my cooking skills, and you make something that's really good and you want to share it with 2 or 3 people, then just share it with those 2 or 3 people. Don't like throw it out there for everybody to see.
Mm-hmm.
Which I know Facebook is kind of like, that's like old people social media now. I don't know what most people are using. What, Snapchat? Although I think that's already out the door. Instagram.
We're both almost 28. We can make old person jokes. So,
We're almost 28, but we're also of the generation that is supposed to be like completely saturated in social media. I know nothing about social media. Like, in my opinion, 2015 was like the peak of meme culture. Like, the best memes were from like 2015, in my personal opinion. Because I see memes now and I'm like, I don't get it at all. I'm gonna go raise my children that I produced because I do things other than hang out on social media and read memes all the time. But that's, again, another discussion for another time. But yeah, I don't know what the kids are using these days. I also don't really care. I just know that my children will not be allowed to touch any of it.
mm-hmm. Yeah, for both their own health and for other people. Like, again, returning to on the privacy note, just it doesn't need to be there.
No.
It just doesn't. What are some of the other problems that you see with it? With modern tech privacy?
We see this happen a lot where, somebody online makes a salacious comment, or it had happened a lot. Thankfully, this isn't happening as much anymore. I think that the trend for this has sort of died down a little bit. But doxing was basically an epidemic for a while. It was like you say anything bad online at all, or anything that somebody else considers bad online at all. Mm-hmm. And, if you piss off enough people, they could share your personal information. They could find photos of you on the internet. They could find your address. They could find your phone number. They could find your email address. They could find pictures of your children. Like, for some, I know it got really, really bad. And that is more on a personal privacy basis. It's not my business where a Supreme Court justice lives. Not my business. Well, everybody knows that the president lives at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue.
Kind of know that, yeah.
In Washington, D.C. But that's, he's the president of the United States. That's like everybody, that's like it being public information, the street address of the Capitol building and the Supreme Court building.
Mm-hmm.
Because the White House is not so much about the private residence as it is about the Oval Office. But no, I think doxing had gotten really bad. And I know earlier this year, this is sort of old news, but it bears mentioning. So there was this app specifically for women. So it's about to get good. It's like, this is an app that's specifically for women. I think it was just called Tea or something like that. Like spilling the tea. Oh, no.
Yeah, that's what they call it now. It's like enjoying the tea, spilling the tea. Yeah,
basically the entire point of this app was for women to have the app and take pictures of guys they were on a date with and share it, and then for other women to just tear the guy apart. Like, guys were actually actively getting doxed. Like, women were doxing guys they were going out on dates with.
Goodness sakes.
And it's like, this is this guy, this is where we were at, this is where he lives. And there was a lot of stuff that was sort of benign stupidity of how they were reacting, like, oh, he was wearing a green hat. That's a bad sign. Why is that a bad sign? Maybe he just likes John Deere. I don't. But alternatively, there was a sort of a poetic form of a poetic justice when a hacker went in and then hacked the site and then leaked all the information of all of the women that were using it. And they're like, basically, like, guys, avoid all of these women because they're using this app and they're going to destroy you. They're going to try to destroy your lives. Which, while at least of dubious morality, that type of doxing is at least a social good. Like, there was a swingers website that got hacked, and then all of its user information was leaked to the public. Or, like, the KKK's membership roster was leaked to the public at one point. And, like, yeah, if what you're doing is bad enough, I can see everybody knowing about that kind of being a good thing. But even then, there's still it is a matter of your own soul. Like, your soul ultimately is your business alone. The state of your soul is your business and nobody else's. Like, the state of my soul is purely my business, not even really my wife's. And she and I are one. Now, it is right for me to tell her when I've done something horribly wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And I may be advised to do that. And it is never the wrong thing to tell her when I've done something horribly wrong. But ultimately, if I don't, it's also not necessarily the worst thing to not. Because sometimes not knowing something is better than knowing it. You know, not...
Yeah.
You don't need to know everything that's happening with everybody, which is kind of what we've already talked about. But, you know, this goes back to conspiracy theories, which I'm, at this point, just waging war against, I guess. Because, you know, there's so many ways of bringing it up. And, you know, there's just a lot of different ways that, oh, just like conspiracy theories is being mentioned. But so many of them revolve around specific individuals. Of like, oh, well, he can't really be trusted, or oh, he's not who he says he is, or oh, she's not who she says she is. Is that your business? Yes, with public figures, there is a certain amount of things that, if you're a public figure, something that is publicly known should be publicly addressed.
Mm-hmm.
But even if you're a public figure, what you do in your own private life, because that is your own personal private life, is yours. So when a public figure tells you something about himself, just believe him. You know, the Vice President of the United States tells you that he has Scots-Irish ancestry. Believe him. Don't go digging into his family history to find, like, oh, he's not really Scots-Irish. Like, no, I'd rather just believe him. Because for one thing, there's a lot of people who have a lot of motivations to lie to ruin the reputation of the Vice President of the United States.
Yep.
That is also a thing. Like,
and even if you're telling...
Not my business whether or not the First Lady of France is actually a man. It's not my business, but I'm still just willing to go, all right, I'm willing to say she's a woman. Mm-hmm. I'm willing to believe that. Like, I know the French are weird. The French have been weird since the late 1700s. Since the French Revolution. They've been weird for a long time, but
even the
not my
truth
business.
of it, the truth of it largely doesn't matter, you know? And what what I mean by that is, like, you know, say that Vance said something on some say that Vance made some ill-advised comment about whoever, some individual. That should not be made public. Yeah. There's literally no reason to make it public.
Yeah, particularly if it was just to another individual. Or like more recently, there was that young Republicans group text in New York Politico went viral publishing an article about, in some young Republicans group text or just a private text conversation, one of the conversants said, like, oh yeah, I like Hitler or something like that, probably as a joke, because this is young Republicans. This is all guys who are under the age of 25. They say things that they probably shouldn't. Every guy under the age of 25 has said things that he probably regrets when he's over the age of 25.
Mm-hmm.
Or he will look back on and say, yeah, that was really stupid of me.
Yeah. The policies
Guys are
that they're
dumb.
implementing, the policies that they're trying to implement are things you can actually look at.
Yes,
Not
by your
random
fruits you
stuff
shall
that they
judge
say.
them, not like what they say in a random text where you're probably just trying to be cheeky and edgy and impress your friends.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you should give people the grace that they're due. So,
Yeah, so
know,
that
you
should
can-
not have been leaked. It should not have been told to anybody. So there is more wrong with the people that made a big deal about it than with the person who actually said it. Should he have said it? Probably not. It's a dumb thing to say.
Mm-hmm.
But it's worse when it's a private conversation to then go and bring it to a news organization and say, see, this guy said this one thing. Particularly because this is young politicians who are actively stabbing each other in the back on a regular basis. So,
Your reputation is one of your most valuable possessions, and even if you do something wrong, that does not give someone else the license to ruin it. So, but yeah, people's privacy ought to be respected, and if listening to this, you question any of those you question any example that we've said or that you can think of, like, oh, but this actually makes sense. Just imagine the shoe being on the other foot.
yeah.
I'm not saying that's the perfect way of assessing the morality of it, but it'll help.
It will at least be like the right step if you're thinking about doing it to somebody else and that makes you uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Probably shouldn't allow it to be done to yourself.
So I want to pivot from this because I've referenced certain stories that we've talked about in the past. So where just tech sniffs on us too much. So I remember once in college, I was on the university ministry team, and I remember I was in one room working on some poster or something else, and then one of my friends came into the ministry center, into the room next to me, and he was talking about, I forget exactly. Well, he came into the center and he was talking about this gift that he bought for his fiance, which was really cool. It was like some sort of star constellation thing. I forget all the details, but it was a really neat thing. And so I go into the other room. I'm pretty sure I left my phone and my laptop behind me. Definitely my laptop. And I'm like, hey, that's really cool, dude. Like, take a look at it. I then go back to my laptop. I open Facebook, and lo and behold, there's an ad for the same darn thing. Right there. And if I'm correct that my phone was in the other room, then either its mic was real good, or
Which I doubt.
somebody else's phone picked up on me and knew that it was me and translated that to my own social media stuff.
Yeah.
Just thinking about the technical side of, okay, how would that work?
I had a similar experience once. I was at my parents' place, and my dad was showing me something. I think it was a type of belt that he had recently seen an ad for or found out about.
Sure.
So he's showing me this. And I'm like, oh, cool. My phone is not in my pocket. My phone is never on my immediate person. It's always like across the room or something.
You're a rare
I
one.
usually wear a jacket. It's in the pocket of my jacket all the way across the room
Sure.
or something. The point is, even if it's a good microphone, when it's in a pocket, stuff is going to be muffled. But so my dad is showing me this, and I'm like, oh, okay, that's pretty cool. The next day, when I pull Facebook up just to scroll through it, there's an ad for that belt. I had not once ever said the name of the thing. Neither of us had actually even said the name of the thing.
Really?
I think my dad may have said it once. But we're not talking really loud, and my phone was like all the way across. It may have even been in another room.
Mm-hmm.
I doubt that the microphone is that good. Which there's the conspiracy theories about that too. But the search on my dad's computer somehow led to Facebook getting the information to show me the ad for the same thing, which was like, oh, that's disturbing. That's a little bit disturbing. Like, just what they do with your search history. They don't even have to be listening. That's just what they can do with your search history. What you've looked for, what products you've looked at.
Mm-hmm.
Like, even when I was, the year that I was teaching, I had one day, it was a free period. The kids were just milling about in the classroom, forming little groups, having conversations. And again, my phone is never within my immediate reach. So my phone was over on the table in the corner. And I briefly overheard a conversation between some of my students about something. I don't remember what it was exactly, a toy or something. These were 10, 11, 12-year-olds. It was a toy, a product of some kind they were talking about. Some hot new thing. And that night I got home and I pulled up Facebook just to scroll through it, and there's an ad for that thing they were talking about right there, which frightens me a little bit because at that point I know that the phone did hear it, but it was able to pick that out from the 5 or 6 different conversations that were happening between my 18 students. It also, it gave me a little bit more pause because it happened to be the thing that I had overheard them talking about and that I had even started actively listening to.
Mm-hmm.
Briefly. But yeah, it's just
weird, right?
Yeah.
Weird and unsettling. Like, you're correct to
Very
be unsettled. Weird. Does it mean there are nanobots in your brain reporting what you think about? I don't know about that.
Probably not. Are 5G signals being used to control what you're thinking about and record what you're thinking about? Maybe. I don't know. Probably not.
Mm-hmm. But it begs the question that something is going on. Yeah. Again, you'd be right to be unsettled about that. Has your wife got any stories like that?
She does. She has one. So this one is I'll just share it. So when she and I were dating and were engaged and we're talking about being married and having children, and even in the early days of our marriage too, just talking about having children, like her YouTube ads wound up being for the Plan B pill somehow, which is all like, on the one hand, it is kind of scary how precise they can be, but on the other hand, it's also humorous how idiotic computers can be at times, because they are so intelligent that they can be very stupid. Like, think about some of the most intelligent people you know. In some ways, they are also incredibly stupid people. So just the fact that, and we were talking about being excited about having children. Talking about how many we wanted. And she was like, well, I at least want 4. And which is 1 more than the average. Although I think actually the average is like 0.8 children or something these days, which is very, very sad.
I think it's 1 point something.
1 point
still,
something.
Or it's if I had to guess, I'd say 1.9.
Well, either way, you have 4 children and people are like, isn't that a little much? I'm like, no, I grew up around families that had 13. Not weird to me.
No.
It would be weird to me because in my family it was just me and my brother. I'm one of 2, but I have enough, at least secondhand experience with large families that that doesn't faze me.
Mm-hmm.
But just the fact that we were talking about having lots of children and then YouTube was like, I don't know what to do with this. Here's an ad for contraception. You're talking about babies. I don't know what to do with that.
Here's the one thing I know how to do with
Here's
babies.
the only
Kill
thing
them.
that I got. Here's the thing that I got. Keep them from being born in the first place. That's, and you're like, even if it is programmed specifically to try to discourage people from having children, is that really going to be it? Is that really going to be like who says, "Oh, I wanted 7 children and then I saw this ad for Plan B."
Yeah. So I'm
No
just
one
not
has
gonna have
ever
seven.
said that. Mm-hmm. And I saw this ad for Plan B that made me decide against it and not want any children at all. Like, the idiocy of it is just, I have to laugh at it. And there are horrible things. It is a horrible thing. It is terrible. But at times, the right response to horrible and terrible things is just to laugh at them. It's like, this is just so asinine.
More people should use words like asinine. It's a good word. So here's an idea. What solutions have you tried? What solutions have you tried to increase the privacy in your own life? And again, folks, this is not a you must do everything you can, because there are benefits to it. I shouldn't need to say what those benefits are. Like sometimes it is nice to get the ad that, have an ad that, directs you right to what you need.
Yeah, if you do need something and then the algorithm says, "Oh, is it this thing?" and you go, "That I do need."
Yep. And
That
we
is
talk
good.
about curating an algorithm, on certain sites and such. So like that's, there's perks to that. But obviously there's the privacy stuff too. So, yeah, I do certain things. Do you do anything?
So, right now, the thing that I'm trying, and this is something that actually takes personal discipline. By the way, is almost no answer to this question that does not involve a significant amount of self-control on the part of the individual. So really the answer actually just is self-control. The easy thing is just to never use social media, throw smartphones out the window, go back to dumb phones, at least, even though dumb phone technology is getting better. And use your let your computer be the computer and let your phone be the phone. I'd say go back to landlines, but then 98% of the phone calls you get are going to be spam phone calls, just like with your email. But so significantly limit the amount of time that you spend on social media, just from the privacy perspective. That's good for you in every conceivable way. There is no situation in which spending time on social media or not spending time on social media is bad for you. I can think of no possible situations when that would be the case. So limit your time on social media, but also use the algorithms to your advantage. So if you have particular interests or a particular job where, the stuff on social media is very helpful, limit your use of social media and the internet in general to be helpful for those things. So right now what I'm trying to do is train my algorithm to where it at least very heavily recommends woodworking stuff. Because I'm not gonna steal anybody else's design, but occasionally you see something for a technique, some advice about tool sharpening, tool maintenance, what tools to have, what tools to use, how to use certain tools correctly, tips, tricks, that sort of thing. Or just inspiration for what I can add to the shop later. The link is in the description for that shop, by the way.
Some new product on there.
Yeah, and there's going to be more soon. Christmas present season is coming. So there's going to be some gift type stuff up there. But I'm trying to train it to do that. And there's a couple ways of doing that. One of them is just if you're scrolling through your YouTube shorts, which I pretty much just do when I'm on the toilet, I only stop and actively watch those things. The woodworking stuff, even if it's maybe not specifically something that I'm into at that given time, but because it's woodworking related, I want YouTube to show me more woodworking related stuff. So I'll sit there and watch it and pay attention to it. That, or, a couple of other things. Because if you narrow it down too much, then that's going to oversaturate your brain, and, that'll wind up being too much.
Mm-hmm.
And also in what you search for on YouTube, because they check your search history, your liked videos, also very important. So the kind of stuff that you want to see, like more of those videos. If you want to see more of that kind of thing. Because they keep track of that. Including ours, yes. Like and subscribe, share, all of that with all of our stuff, because that does help us.
Mm-hmm. Whether it helps you is a different question. It really just helps us.
Yeah, we're that's the only reason we do this. Anyway.
Yeah.
But so when you like it, if you subscribe to more channels that are geared towards the thing that you're interested in, so if I have just started subscribing to the woodworking channels that produce woodworking stuff and the type of woodworking content that I particularly like, then YouTube will pick up on that. Also, go through your subscription list and just cut out the things you don't care about anymore, because everybody is subscribed to way too many channels that they no longer care about. And that will actually help the algorithm then be less confused and maybe start recommending less things to you. And it's really handy and helpful, because in your subscriptions list, you can just kind of go down the list, and there's that handy little button that says unsubscribe. And you just do that. Nothing against the people that run those channels necessarily. But if you don't actively watch their stuff, they don't need to be there.
Mm-hmm. That's just more noise at the end of the day.
Yeah. So do those sorts of things to kind of cut out the noise. At least this is with YouTube, because that's what I have the most experience with as far as using goes. And then you had some advice that you gave me for this as well the other day, which was go to one of your favorite channels that produces that type of content you like. It should be something edifying and helpful, like for your hobby or even your work, and just run playlists and long videos and have that running overnight so you can just go to sleep and let the algorithm do the rest. So those are ways in which man can then tame the machine. The machines will never rule as long as man truly behaves as man, because a machine cannot control a man unless the man lets it. I hear complaints these days from sort of more crotchety older people that, the algorithm is deciding what you should like and what you should, be watching. Ultimately, you're the one that decides. If the algorithm is deciding what you like and you like it because the algorithm decided it, then you have already made the decision to just surrender your will over to that algorithm.
Yep.
And you have just surrendered your will over to a machine. A lifeless, soulless collection of lines of code. And that is on you. So be a man, stand up straight, put your chest out and your shoulders back, and tame the machine. Make it serve you. You are its master, not the other way around.
Yeah, agreed. And it's that two-way form of privacy. Like, this isn't just, okay, how can I prevent things from listening to me? How can I prevent myself from listening to too many things?
Yeah.
Because you are worth that. That is valuable to you. And by extension to everybody else that you'll then interact with, because you'll be a better person for it. So, and I really like that, because it's not because I think that something like that is accessible to most people, and something that's like prudent to one degree or another for most people. Like some other examples of similar stuff, more on the, okay, how do I prevent things from listening to me? Like, I use the Brave internet browser. I know you do too. You can cut out a lot of things with that. I use Proton Mail for my email, so it's end-to-end encrypted, which can help with some of that stuff. I use Signal for chats with a couple of my friends. And
That's
there's
what
other
we use as well for, like, our entire family group chat is on Signal right now.
Oh, nice. Yeah, so there's all sorts of stuff you can do in that realm, and if you want to go further, I mean, there's all sorts of intentionally dumb phones to one degree or another you can buy, and there's one by a brand called Unplugged, and there's things like that out there, where you can just choose to not be on it. But I think for most people, and I philosophical reasons that I've kind of talked about on earlier episodes about this, but like you don't need to do everything. You don't need to view the machine as evil, but you do need to. You ought to tame it. Would be a good way of looking at it.
Well, yeah,
Like you're saying.
A machine is ultimately a tool. It itself is not necessarily evil.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you can't blame the machine for being created. It had no say in the matter.
Yep, but you can choose what you do with it. You know,
You may say that the creator is pretty lousy, and that it was kind of a lousy thing for the creator to make that machine, but it's not the machine's fault. And with nearly every machine, there is a proper way to use it. And there is a proper context in which it is good to be used. I don't hate machines in general. I hate the fact that we have decided to leave all work to machines. That we have just handed ourselves over to machines, which actually reduces you as a person, because now you're not doing the work that you're supposed to be doing. You were made to till the earth and to keep it, not to hand over all of your work to a machine.
agreed.
And not to let the machine do everything for you. Man is master of machine, not the other way around. And if you let the machine control you, then the machine is then worm tongue, and you are Theoden. Not in a good way.
Yeah, not in a good way.
You are Theoden under the spell of Sauron. So if your eyes are on this more than anything else, you're Theoden under the spell of Sauron. And this should be silent and keep its forked tongue behind its teeth. You can tell it to do that. You see this little button right here? Off.
Mm-hmm. Away from the world away from you. So, and back to what really matters. What matters most.
Which is God, for one thing, and your family, and the people who are actually around you. All of those things have to come first. Almost to the point, almost to the exclusion of everything else.
It's the order of Morris again, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what is most central and what is less central?
Like,
you know what's
okay,
more central? My relationship with God. You know what's less central? Indicting myself. The macroeconomic videos that I watch, you know, or this will sound cold. What tragedy happened in Sri Lanka? Like,
it is horrible, and
it's horrible.
we should be praying for the souls of people who are hurt or killed, but
yeah,
and for those that are mourning them. But is it really our business to know that? And everybody keeps, like, I always keep seeing this: stay informed, stay up to date. Why?
sure. I was like, that makes sense.
But why do I need to be?
About what?
Certain things.
Exactly. Yep.
So everybody that's saying stay informed, it's no, you want me to be informed about the things you're saying. So we need to actually be the ones determining what we ought to be informed about. The U.S.'s foreign policy with regards to Luxembourg is none of my business. I'm an American. I'm a citizen of this country. I don't care. I have more important things to worry about, like putting food on the table for my children and keeping a roof over their heads. That's what I'm concerned about.
Mm-hmm.
Because that is my place, and I happen to know my place. So know your place and stay in it. If you don't really think it's your job to know anything, you don't have to know anything about certain things. And if you wonder whether or not you should know, just take the time to ask yourself, can I actually do anything about this?
Exactly. Is it in my sphere of influence?
What can I actually affect? What can I actually change? Really, you only need to know about the things that you have a level of influence over. The way our current political situation is, our political system is set up, You have a responsibility to know who you're voting for and what they stand for. And you have a responsibility to go out and vote. But you also have the responsibility to do that during voting season. And that's about it. You may have a responsibility to take part in your local politics. Actually, everybody does. That's just a prudent thing to do. Because that's almost more important than trying to take part in federal politics. Like, I'm guilty of this too. I need to pay more attention to local elections because those come and go and they pass me by. Everybody knows when the president's being elected.
It's all people talk about. Yeah,
It's
you're
the only
spot on
one.
with that.
The only time people ever talk about it. Only elections people care about, or your state's governor, the senators. That they're usually elected about the same time. But shouldn't it go the other way? Because everybody is trying to elect a president that's going to fix all of your problems. But isn't the best way to deal with that to elect good public officials? Like, I actually don't know when mayoral elections in my town take place. I don't know that. I should. And I should probably look that up because that might be soon. But you have the responsibility to, like, your mayor, your alderman, your city, like, all of your city council, the school board, the county officials. You should actually be paying more attention to that than you do to the presidential campaign. Because the job of the president is to secure our own nation's security, our own border, and to deal with other nations. And to keep the federal government in check. That's actually his job.
It also reminds me of this old investment advice that I heard today. This one really good investor in the 70s was talking about, if you spend 13 minutes listening to macroeconomics, you've wasted 10 minutes.
That's true for a lot of things.
But it gets at the larger point, which is, what is in your sphere of influence? What can you actually control? How much does this actually pertain to you? You can think about how well the stock market is doing, but you arguably should spend more time thinking about how your local community is doing.
Yeah.
And how
I for one don't care. I don't have any stock, so I couldn't care less.
Well, fair enough. But even if you did, isn't it more important, that Miss Brandl's Bakery is doing well?
Yeah.
Like, shouldn't that be, in a sense, more present to you? And yet it's not.
That's why I wish I made more money than I do, because then I could actually go and partake in the local food, the local places. Mm-hmm. Like, the only chain place that my wife and I actually care about eating at is Culver's.
You chose well.
That also happens to be the best chain place in this town or any other town where it happens to be. Yes, fight me over Whataburger, Texas. I've never had it, but I will still have that fight. But, I mean, basically any other restaurant that we go to, if it's a chain, it's a fairly small chain, and it's otherwise a Missouri business. Or it's just a local place. There's a couple of really good burger joints. There's a couple of bars that make a really good burger here. There's a couple of microbreweries that are really good. This all to say that we've kind of wandered into the rhubarb a little bit, but to bring it around to privacy is actually how you remain private. Like, nobody on the other side of the world has to know anything about you. Mm-hmm. You don't have to know anything about him.
Yeah, if you don't try and go looking.
That may make your tummy hurt just a little bit to think about it, because there's a scrupulous part of you that may try to tell you that, well, that just means I don't care. You can care about somebody without actively desiring to know everything there is to know about him.
Like you said about elections, like how much time do you actually need to spend learning about who the president is, who the candidates are, and what they stand for? If you really want to know
you want to know what I do during election season? I read the list of candidates, and usually I go, well, who's running for the Republican side? Because I'm never going to ever vote for a Democrat unless miracles happen. Like, there has to be either a really good situation or a really bad situation for me to vote for a Democrat. And then I look down the list and I see, well, who is the most likely to do the most amount of good for this country? And then I go, all right, I'm going to vote for you. I have a minimum criteria for if you don't meet these like 3 or 4 minimum things, I will not vote for you. You will not have my vote. Even if you get the nomination and you are in the primary, I still will not vote for you out of principle. But it's also like a minimum number of things where it's like you would be just as bad as the other side that I refuse to vote for on principle anyway. So that whole process usually takes me about 5 minutes.
If you find the platform, you find the platform.
Now, local election stuff, probably because local politics actually do take a little bit more work because there's a lot more nuance to your local area. And you have to know your town, you have to know the people in your town to know actually what your town needs. Which really, you vote for the guy that's going to provide best for your town's needs. That's really it.
Yeah, same idea. And you should spend more time on it because it's closer to you.
Yeah.
Because it is something that it's something that you should be less private about. You should be more open to learning more about it. So, yeah, those are good examples.
Yeah, and I think at this point, I think we've kind of exhausted the conversation. We've talked about privacy and everything potentially adjacent to privacy. But I think if we have takeaways, really, if you want to stay private, it is your privacy is actually your responsibility. If you're careless, then you can't complain. Because that's just the world that we live in at this point. Use whatever level of caution that you have prudentially decided to use. Don't be overcautious, but don't be an idiot. And put your phone down. Mm-hmm. Like right now. There's only a few more seconds left in this video anyway. Just put it down. And like we said last time, go touch some grass. Go talk to some people.
Should be our byline. Just touch grass.
Just touch some grass.
It would fit, though. I mean, that's perfectly said. Yeah, we've given you the principles to think about it. Now go think about it.
Yeah.
And with that, we bid you a good evening.
Farewell.